In the heart of rural Indiana, there sat a farmhouse with a dark history. It was known simply as Arthur's Farm, and it had been in my family for generations. My name is Arthur, and I grew up on this farm, hearing the chilling tales that surrounded it. But one summer, when I returned to the farm as an adult, I experienced a horror that shook me to my core. It all began when I inherited the farm from my aging parents. The farmhouse had been empty for years, and it needed repairs, so I decided to spend the summer there alone, working on the house and reliving fond memories. At first, everything was peaceful, and I reveled in the solitude. One sweltering night, I was in the midst of repairing the creaky floorboards in the hallway when I heard faint whispers coming from the walls. I paused, my heart pounding in my chest. The whispers grew louder, and I could make out distinct voices. They seemed to be crying out in anguish, their words unintelligible but filled with sorrow. My curiosity got the better of me, and I grabbed a flashlight and began tapping on the walls, searching for the source of the eerie voices. As I tapped, the whispers seemed to shift, moving away from me and into the depths of the house. With each step I took, the voices retreated, leading me deeper into the darkness. Finally, I found myself in the cellar, a place I had always avoided. It was damp and chilly, with a lingering smell of decay. The voices seemed to converge here, and the air grew thick with their presence. As I shone my flashlight around, I noticed a pile of old, rotting books in one corner. They were covered in dust and cobwebs, and their pages were filled with strange symbols and drawings. As I picked up one of the books, a bone-chilling scream pierced the air. I dropped the book, and it fell open to a page filled with a crude depiction of the farmhouse itself. In the drawing, shadowy figures surrounded the house, their faces contorted in agony. Terrified, I stumbled back, but the cellar door slammed shut, trapping me in the darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight, but it refused to turn on. Panic set in as I heard the voices closing in on me, their mournful wails echoing through the cellar. In a desperate bid for escape, I grabbed the cellar door handle and pulled with all my strength. It finally gave way, and I burst out into the moonlit night, gasping for breath. The voices faded into the distance, leaving me shaken and bewildered. I never returned to Arthur's Farm after that night. The horrors I had witnessed were too much to bear. To this day, I cannot explain the whispers, the drawings, or the screams that haunted that farmhouse. All I know is that Arthur's Farm held secrets beyond my understanding, and I was not meant to uncover them. Martha and Jonas had always longed for a simpler life, away from the chaos of the city. They found their perfect escape in a charming farmhouse nestled amidst rolling hills and lush fields. The moment they set foot on the property, they knew they had found their forever home. Little did they know that the farm held a dark secret that would soon shatter their dreams. In the beginning, life on the farm was idyllic. They tended to the land, planted crops, and raised animals. It was a peaceful existence, and Martha and Jonas felt like they were living in a postcard-perfect world. But that serenity didn't last long. One crisp autumn night, Martha was alone in the kitchen, preparing a hearty dinner. As she chopped vegetables, she heard faint, eerie whispers coming from the direction of the barn. At first, she thought it was just the wind playing tricks on her, but the whispers grew louder, taking on an unsettling, almost human quality. When Jonas returned from his errands, she told him about the strange sounds. Jonas, a pragmatic man, attributed it to the creaking of old timbers and the farm's natural noises. But Martha couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. As the weeks passed, the whispers persisted, evolving into hushed conversations that echoed through the farmhouse at night. The couple couldn't pinpoint the source, and no matter how many times they searched, they found nothing amiss. It was as if the very walls held secrets they weren't meant to uncover. Their animals began acting peculiarly. The cows would low mournfully. The chickens refused to lay eggs, and their once playful dog, Rex, would growl at unseen shadows. The farm, once so full of life, seemed to be shrouded in an unsettling aura. One evening, Jonas was in the barn, inspecting the machinery. He felt an icy breeze sweep through the space, and then an unseen force knocked him to the ground. Startled and frightened, he scrambled out of the barn, convinced that malevolent spirits lurked within. Martha, determined to unravel the mystery, began researching the history of the farm. What she discovered sent shivers down her spine. The farm had changed hands many times over the years, and there were rumors of tragedies, unexplained deaths, and even a farmer who had vanished without a trace. One chilling evening, as darkness enveloped the farm, Martha and Jonas decided to confront the unknown. Armed with flashlights, they ventured into the barn and discovered a hidden cellar beneath the floorboards. In that dark, forgotten space, they found a trove of eerie artifacts. Old journals filled with cryptic incantations, peculiar symbols etched into the walls, and decaying remnants of rituals long past. It was clear that the farm had been a place of sinister ceremonies, and the restless spirits of those involved seemed to be seeking retribution for their unholy deeds. Terrified, Martha and Jonas reached out to a paranormal investigator for help. Together, they conducted a seance to communicate with the lingering spirits. The room grew icy cold, and they felt a powerful presence. Through a medium, they learned of the tormented souls trapped in a realm between life and death, yearning for release and forgiveness. Martha and Jonas, moved by compassion, offered their forgiveness and conducted a cleansing ritual to set the spirits free. As the final words were spoken, the farmhouse trembled, and a profound sense of peace settled over the land. The farm, once plagued by malevolent whispers and unseen forces, returned to the tranquil haven Martha and Jonas had always envisioned. The dark secret hidden in its past had been laid to rest, a testament to the enduring power of forgiveness and the haunting mysteries that can dwell in the most unexpected places. In a forgotten corner of rural America, there existed an eerie farm that sent shivers down the spines of anyone who dared to speak its name. Known as Daniel's Farm, this place held secrets that defied explanation. What I'm about to share with you is a true tale, a horror story that unfolded in the heart of the countryside. Daniel, a grizzled farmer in his late 50s, was the keeper of this unsettling land. He lived a solitary life, choosing the company of his crops and livestock over the townsfolk who gossiped about him. His farm had been passed down through generations, and with each passing year, its sinister reputation grew. The haunting began one chilly autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the farm. Daniel set out to tend to his fields. He was a man of few words, his face etched with lines that told of a life spent in solitude. The townspeople, driven by curiosity and fear, had warned him about the farm's dark history, but he paid them no mind. It was during the harvest season that the horrors escalated. As the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the fields, Daniel heard whispers. Faint, disembodied voices that seemed to emanate from the very earth beneath his feet. He dismissed them as the wind playing tricks on his mind, but as the nights passed, the voices grew louder and more distinct. One night, while he was in the barn, he heard his name being called. Daniel, the voice whispered, sending a shiver down his spine. He followed the voice, his lantern casting long, wavering shadows. It led him to an old oak tree at the edge of the farm, where a decaying scarecrow stood. As he approached the scarecrow, its tattered clothes rustled in the wind, and its stitched-together face seemed to contort into a grotesque smile. "Daniel," it hissed again, and this time, he felt a cold breath against his neck. Panic seized him, and he fled back to the farmhouse, locking the door behind him. But the horrors didn't end there. Night after night, the scarecrows on Daniel's farm came to life. They moved with unnatural grace, their straw-stuffed bodies twisting and contorting in grotesque dances. They whispered his name, their voices a chilling chorus that echoed through the darkness. Desperate and terrified, Daniel sought help from the townsfolk, but they turned him away, convinced he was suffering from madness. Alone and tormented, he decided to confront the source of the malevolent presence on his farm. Armed with a crucifix and a heart heavy with fear, he ventured out one final night. The scarecrows gathered around him, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. But Daniel, driven by sheer determination, began reciting prayers. With each word, the scarecrows shrieked and writhed in agony until, one by one, they collapsed into lifeless heaps. The haunting ceased that night, and Daniel's farm returned to an eerie stillness. He lived out his days in solitude, haunted by the horrors he had witnessed. To this day, locals speak in hushed tones of Daniel's farm, a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred, and where one man faced unimaginable terrors that no one would ever truly believe.